Hello, 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 New Haven, and welcome to Arts Respond on WNHH Community Radio. I'm your host, Lucy Gellman, and I'm very excited on this beautiful Friday. The sun is out. I'm feeling good. I can feel the vitamin D just like coming through the window. I don't know that it works like that, um, but I'm very excited to have Dawn Leeks, the new executive director of Collab, and Caroline Smith, the co-founder, and now Caroline is the correct director of external affairs and organizing for Collab at this point. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Great. Great. So I'm excited to have both of you on to talk about the past, present, and future of Collab, which is itself still kind of a baby. We've seen it grow from being in a crib to walking and talking to now like really it's going off to elementary school by itself at this point. I don't know how I feel about that. I can take the bus alone. And so we're going to talk about what what we can see going forward for this incredible organization that works with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and just like idea folks. I guess I'm thinking about that, like people who are holding ideas. Collab is the container for that in New Haven. And so, Dawn, I first want to. So you have been introduced a little bit to the community through Babs Rawls Ivy, who is a wonderful, wonderful host on this radio station. But if folks maybe didn't catch that episode, I would love for them to get to know you a little first. So let's go into the Wayback Machine. What drew you to this work? Like, tell us about you, like Dawn as, I mean, maybe not like baby Dawn, although we can go that far back if you want, right? But this kind of work, and especially engaging with people, which you have done in a lot of different ways, wearing a lot of different hats, it's not for everyone. And so what drew you to that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It's a great question. One, just in terms of engaging with people, I love engaging with people. I think one of my first jobs out of college was customer service. And I enjoy interacting with people and helping them solve their problems. So I figured out that I enjoyed doing that. So that's just at a basic level. But I have also always, I think probably since my teenage years, been interested in business, wanted to own my own business. Over the years, I've started several businesses that had various levels of success or interest for me. Some of them I started and just abandoned because I was young and didn't know what I wanted to focus on. But ultimately, I started two businesses that were significant and relevant to this conversation. One was a coaching and consulting practice. So in thinking about enjoying helping people solve problems and helping people reach their goals, I was always very interested in coaching. I started a coaching practice. I was coaching primarily female entrepreneurs, and that passion for business was able to live. So it was meeting two of my needs: helping people and helping people with business. And so the founder of Lioness, the founding partner, I was doing some consulting work for her, and she asked me to come run her business. And as we talked more about it, there was some synergy. I was helping primarily female entrepreneurs. This is a publication strictly for female entrepreneurs, helping them launch and grow high growth startups. And so it was like a match made in heaven. And we merged our businesses. And so for the past, for the past 6 years or so, I was co-founder and CEO of Lioness magazine. And so again, the mission there was to help female founders launch and grow high growth startups. And so we kind of took that business from a Western Massachusetts-based publication to a global publication with over 100,000 readers all over the world. And we were able to sell that business in July of 2020. So it's still there. I'm still doing a plug for Lioness. If you're listening and you're trying to launch a business for female entrepreneurs, go to lionessmagazine.com. It's still there. I'm still really proud of the work that we were able to do there. So with that, I have been through several accelerator programs, understand the journey of an entrepreneur trying to, as you just described it, you have a little baby, you're protective of that child, and you want it to grow and become independent. And so I understand that journey. Yeah, and so it was just natural. It was such a good fit, when thinking about my next step and what I wanted to do. When I saw the posting for Collab, oh my goodness, an organization that is specifically helping people that have just been that are on the journey I've just come off of, as well as prioritizing Black, Brown, immigrant entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, all of those things I'm very passionate about. And I understand because I've experienced firsthand the barriers that we face. And so, I get an opportunity to help people and to help them from the perspective of someone who has been there and gone through it. It was just really exciting. And so that, I think I answered your question.
You did 100%. And there's a lot to unpack there. So we're going to go back there. But Caroline, I also want to bring you into the discussion. And I just want to shout out the bookshelf behind you because it is so beautiful. I'm like distracted by this bookshelf a little bit, but I promise I will stay on topic. And so for folks who don't know what Collab is, first of all, I think most of our listeners probably know what Collab is. But for folks who don't know, what's the 2-minute elevator thing that you've gotten down that you tell people this is the heart and soul of Collab?
Well, first of all, Lucy, thanks for having us on. And you made me a little emotional when you were talking about like Collab as this baby that has grown up over the past 5 years since 2017. And I think the reason why I was emotional is because you've really seen us through that journey. Like we've been friends since probably even before then, but so on a personal level, but also you've written about us, you've written about our graduates, like you truly have been there since the beginning. And so that was just special to hear you mention that because you truly have watched us grow over the past 5 years and have supported us on that journey, including our entrepreneurs. So thank you for that. And also thank you for mentioning the bookshelf. It's special to me because like it's increasingly, I went back home this winter break and brought some like items from my mom who immigrated here from South Korea, and just a lot of different little items that make me feel closer and even more tied to the various homes, the various places that I call home in my life, including, of course, New Haven. Yes, so Collab, for those that don't know, is an organization that supports individuals to use entrepreneurship to build wealth for themselves and then for their families, create local jobs, and really support the neighborhoods that they love. And we really focus on supporting people of color, women, and immigrant entrepreneurs who face specific kinds of barriers to starting a business. And the last thing I'll say about that is, just tying it back to Dawn's story, which so much of the theme that she shared is that coaching, is that one-on-one support for entrepreneurs, and that, whether you want to use the language of secret sauce or really what makes us work as an organization, is that one-on-one high touch support. We think a lot about, of course, like the idea, of course, the venture, but the individual entrepreneurs that come our way, we're very attentive to their business needs as well as their emotional needs. And so that's why it's so incredible and so exciting that we were able to find someone with Dawn's variety of experiences, most particularly coaching, to be able to take the helm of this organization, because her experience so aligns with, I think, what makes Collab special and what makes us supportive for the entrepreneurs that we love and care about.
So I want to ask you a follow-up question, because I find that sometimes people don't talk about this enough. I want to hear, and I want our listeners to hear a little about the decision to step away from this thing that you helped make, because it strikes me as a decision that is like both maybe very emotional, but also really thoughtful. I know, Caroline, that a lot of thought went into this decision, that it wasn't made flippantly or hastily. And I would love to hear about it, especially because there might be a listener or many listeners out there thinking, I know that I'm ready to spread my wings a little bit, and I don't feel like I have the courage to do that?
It's a really wonderful question. I think, Margaret, and I wish Margaret was here too to kind of share her thoughts as well. But you're 100% right. I think there should be more books, more articles written about transition of organizations, because it is an emotional and an important part of an organization's health. And to have more stories that are written about it, I think is really important. So for Margaret and you know, I think a question that always lay at the sort of root of our decision making was what's best for our entrepreneurs. So that came up for us so many different times, whether it was about funding decisions or programmatic decisions throughout the 5 years starting since 2017. That question of, at the end of the day, what is best for the people that we care about, what is best for our entrepreneurs, was very central to our decisions. And so that continued to be the case in this last year. So we had brought on George and BC, our two venture managers, not this past September, but the September prior. And by the spring of last year, they had been pretty fully onboarded. They had taken over the accelerator. They were really allowing us, with their expertise, their experience, and their time, to allow us to have more freedom and flexibility to think about higher level organizational future and trajectory. They were also really ready to, it was important to us to bring them into the fold of strategic visioning for the organization. And so in spring of 2021, we did a strategic visioning process, the full team. We talked about things like values. We talked about things like purpose, and we really collaboratively as a team came up with of course we had always had organizational values, but what organizational values really matter to us collectively as a team, what purpose really resonates with us as a team. What are our strengths? What are our opportunities? What are our gaps, and what's standing in the way of us showing up best for the entrepreneurs that we care about? I think in thinking through those questions and thinking about what's best for our entrepreneurs, I think have always had this openness, but had a real openness for whatever kind of strategic priorities, what staffing capacity and staffing structure needed to be true in order to fulfill on whatever we discovered during that strategic visioning process. And so a lot of things came from that, a lot of like a new program, some interesting thinking about partnerships. But one of those things was also, what would it mean for Collab at the helm to have someone who had concrete business experience, someone who's been there, right? Someone who's started something. Of course, Margaret and I are entrepreneurs. We started Collab, but what would it mean for someone to bring that level of business expertise that our entrepreneurs could really connect to, that could bring that level of finesse, strategic thinking to our business programming? As well as what would it mean to bring someone on who also brings nonprofit expertise and also fits with the culture and spirit of Collab as well. And I think based upon that question, it became really clear to us really quickly that bringing on a new executive director of Collab, who is not just thinking about the next 1 to 2 years of our work, but like the next 5 to 10 years, the sustainability of our work, the growth of our impact, who had that level of business expertise, was going to be really, really important for us to be able to fulfill on that promise that we made since the very beginning of what is best for entrepreneurs and supporting them. And so then we made that decision, and and talked to a lot of our advisors. We've been so lucky to be built off a foundation of relationships, advisors, and mentors who have guided us, and we were really lucky that a lot of our mentors and advisors felt really excited about that. So yeah, that was the thinking behind the decision.
So, Don, I want to hop over to you and ask, especially when you were at Linus, but you're welcome to bring previous experience at the American Red Cross in Massachusetts into this conversation. I mean, really, it's your time. Like we're together for this hour. So if you're like, this is a non sequitur and I want to go there, you can do that too. But what were you hearing from female entrepreneurs during your time at Lioness? Because I think this is also something that like folks can't hear enough, because for as many people, I have found that for as many people as really do believe that systemic barriers exist, you will find for every one person that believes that, you will find 2 people who are usually beneficiaries of white male privilege, who say, no, 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 that's just, it's you, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you work hard, it's okay, you can get there. And we know, like, the numbers don't lie. We know from female entrepreneurs that they are facing an uphill battle. And so I'm wondering what you were hearing from folks that inevitably will inform your work at Collab.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a couple of things. I think you have the internal and the external. So some of the things we were hearing from female entrepreneurs were internally faced. So imposter syndrome and just trying to overcome those ideas around, and why me? Why should I be the one to bring this idea forward? And do I have enough education? And do I have the right skill set to do it? And all those kind of things. And there's a great book out there called The Confidence Code. But it kind of explores and unpacks the imposter syndrome among people. And I think we're finding that most people, just people, do experience imposter syndrome in some way. But I think some way the way women engage around it is a little bit different. And so it can cause you to stay in the starting blocks much longer because you're like, okay, I want to do this, but I need another master's first. I need more education. I've got to do so much research and development. And so many things that get in the way of you just actually launching the business because you're too busy trying to make it perfect before you even take a step. And so that was a big thing that we heard about, which is where a lot of the coaching came in, and was very helpful for female entrepreneurs. But then on the other side, of course, there's bias. There's bias in the world, and we all have biases and we all experience them. But in going to talk to investors, hearing different kind of questions, questions about kids, questions about things that your male counterparts are not being asked. Who's going to watch the kids while you're doing the business? And do you have kids? And all those kind of questions. I mean, you may do a whole business deal with a man and never know if he had any children. It just might never come up. Things of that nature. And so there are definitely things that women are experiencing, less access to capital. And I think a lot of that has to do with those biases. When you're getting in the room with an investor, how they're receiving your idea, how they're perceiving you, all of that matters because people are not really betting. I mean, they're betting on your business, but they're betting on you as a person. And if there's a barrier to connecting with you as a person, then there's going to be a barrier to getting those dollars. And so we heard a lot about those things. And so those are some of the things that coming into the collab, I'm very aware of. And those things are also true for people of color and other people who have been marginalized. And so really connecting with the entrepreneur, but also doing the work on the investor side as well. It's talking to some of the funders and trying to challenge some of this thinking and trying to break down some of these barriers, so that people can connect on a human level and then, really start having a little more access to capital and other resources.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned that when you saw this job go up at Collab, it was really exciting to you, but I would love to know a little bit more about why it was exciting to you, because in that same way that it can take courage to step away from a project that you've created, it can also take a ton of courage to say, okay, I'm going to uproot my life. And I know that we are not that far from Massachusetts, but it's still, you are making a big move. You're now in Hamden, Connecticut, and to step into something and say, I'm going to take this forward for the next 5 years, 10 years.
Right. Well, first I will say I was here. I moved here prior to seeing the posting. And so I was here. So the collab didn't cause me to make the leap. There was something else in my life that caused me to make that leap. And also a little scary, but I saw the posting and everything. I think in terms of, setting down roots with an organization like Collab, I mean, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, the things I already kind of mentioned, just the opportunity to make actual impact in the lives of entrepreneurs, and then by extension, the lives of a community as you start to see the wealth and the job creation and all that kind of stuff. It's just really amazing. But also because I've been an entrepreneur and I've been through several programs like this. And so I have opinions. If you know me, I always have opinions about everything. And I have opinions about how they can be more effective and that they can actually be transformative in the life of a business. And so to have the opportunity to kind of put my stamp on that and to kind of already come into an organization that seems like super efficient and effective at delivering these services already, and then to be able to put my twist on it was just it was an offer I couldn't refuse. You know?
Yes, yes, and also, by the way, I am so sorry to have scrambled the timeline. I know women apologize too much, but I am genuinely sorry for that. So
No, it's
um,
okay because everything was quick in timing. You know
yeah.
what I mean. So yeah, no, please, it's fine.
And so I do want to ask where you see collab, going forward, but I also want to ask within that, as you're feeling out the landscape of Greater New Haven, one of the things that we've struggled with, and Caroline, you and I, Margaret and I have talked about this, is there is so much concentrated wealth in New Haven. I'm not only talking about a certain university with a 43 billion with a B dollar endowment, but I'm also talking about the fact that New Haven is a city that has very much bought into the nonprofit industrial complex. And then also, there are just folks with a lot of concentrated wealth in this city. And then there are just folks with an incredible level of need who may be trying to get a business off the ground and are still living paycheck to paycheck. And Dawn, I'm interested, as you're feeling out that landscape, what are you seeing? What are you thinking about as far as collab and where it intersects with wealth redistribution? Sorry.
Mhm. Well, I will say that I am still really learning. So one of the things that I really was very intentional about coming in is to, like, while I have a lot of ideas, to make sure that I am really listening and really being responsive to the landscape. Um, to that end, I think in terms of an entrepreneur that they want to start a business, they are living paycheck to paycheck, which a lot of people are living. Is kind of really normal at this point. Living paycheck to paycheck. I think that the biggest thing I'm thinking about is, one, making sure that that entrepreneur knows Collab exists. Okay, that they know there's someplace they go to get a little bit of help in terms of how do I actually launch this? Because I think one of the things that stops people is that they think it's so much harder to launch a business than it is. I'm not trying to say that it's easy, but it is not as difficult as probably we're creating it to be. And so for us serving as that kind of front door, front touch for folks to come in and learn how to run a business and really learn some of those essentials in terms of separating out your funds. If we're living paycheck to paycheck and we launch a business and we get a little money coming in, it might be very tempting to just take that and put it into our lives, but to really teach about how to structure the business and to teach about, I think one of our roles is to help people. You come in with an idea, and then we help you kind of expand that idea. And let's look, how can we even increase that vision and increase the vision to include, okay, hiring people? Because I think a lot of people think I'm going to start this business and maybe I'm just going to run this business for the rest of my life, but they don't necessarily think about expansion and what would the business look like if I brought in staff and I didn't have to show up every day. And then I was able to employ more people and I was able to create wealth and give good salaries and all of those kind of good things. And so I think a big piece of that starts with helping the entrepreneur see that that's a possibility. It's a reasonable possibility if you get the right skills and the right resources. And so that's what we're kind of here to do, and to make sure that you understand.
I want to return to two words that you said that I was so moved by, and they were front door. Um, have you found in your work, especially your work with Lioness, that for everyone who says, hey, you can actually start a business, there are a lot of gatekeepers still in the field saying, no, this is going to be way too hard for you?
Oh, absolutely. I'll just even speak from just personal experience. As I said, I've always had, many business ideas, but I remember taking one to an organization that I won't name and meeting with a person who we really didn't seem to have a lot in common and giving him the idea. And it was just, well, have you thought about this? I'm sure you haven't thought about that. What about this? Did you do this? Did you do that? And it was so overwhelming. And it didn't feel like we were trying to get to a yes in any category. It felt like we're just trying to screen me out to, and to help me at the end of the day to understand, hey, this isn't viable and you probably can't do this, as opposed to, a more welcoming approach, like, and so it was actually pretty discouraging. And I think that is experience many people are having. There are, we have an idea of what an entrepreneur looks like. I've done this at a workshop where you just ask, name some entrepreneurs, and people they'll say Steve Jobs, they'll say Mark Zuckerberg, they'll say, and it's people of color and women doing it too. You know what I mean? It's just that we have established this is what an entrepreneur looks like. And then everything else, that's not what it is. And some of the work at Lioness was even just to get someone to consider themselves an entrepreneur. That was a big step. That was a big thing. Most people, no, I'm doing this. I have a little side business. I have a little thing that I'm doing, but to just even say I'm an entrepreneur was a hurdle. And so that's a big piece of it as well.
I want to just shout out Nana Diaz, who is listening. Thank you for listening. Sometimes I don't know if anyone is out there and I'm just speaking into the void, but who says, I'm one of those people trying to get off the ground. It's hard. I'm so glad I know Collab exists. And I'm so glad I know you exist. I'm so glad you're going to approach Collab. Oh, this just makes me really happy. I think this is a Dawn and Caroline question, but Dawn, I'm going to start with you and then Caroline hop in. Because Caroline, I want to know about your dreamy dream world, like what you hope to see from afar. And also my mother's words are pounding in my head, which is you cannot choose you did choose your successor. So never mind. But also that there's an importance in stepping away and letting your successor do her thing. But Dawn, in the next 1 year, 2 years, 5, 10, what are you really excited about seeing as you take, I don't even want to say it's just a foundation, because like, as we've established, Collab is a kid who's like happily taking the bus and speaks 5 languages at least, and does all these things already. But how do you see growing it?
Yeah. So it's really exciting to think about Collab expanding, and developing more programming and even some more industry specific programming that can really help folks understand the ins and outs of specific industries as they go to launch those businesses. So we've started kind of doing some youth programming. And so really getting into that next generation of entrepreneurs, and also perhaps in dealing with youth, the next generation of folks that will work at startups, that they come out with skills equipped to work at startups. They may not be launching their own. And so I think in this conversation, it's just important to note that it's great. Entrepreneurship is excellent, but it's not everybody's path or destiny to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. But in terms of helping to develop some skilled entrepreneurial thinking workers that can, staff the next generation of startups is also really exciting. To be able to really connect people into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so that's like a lot. So that's one of the exciting things I think is happening in New Haven right now. You have all these different entrepreneur support organizations working to try to collaborate to see how we can form some sort of continuum, to really get more depth and breadth of knowledge and skills and information and connecting people to resources. And so it's exciting to kind of envision Collab's role in that as that kind of front door, as we like to say, really attracting the folks with the ideas, attracting the people that they're not sure how to get started, getting them up and running and ready to move on, is really exciting. And so I think when I think of the vision, it's just that, not to oversimplify, but it's really just like more entrepreneurs, more programs and services, and more access to resources. And so that's really what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Caroline, I want to ask you a question that may seem controversial, but I'm not asking for any names or for any institutions. I'm curious to know, if Collab, one of the things I experience a lot as a reporter in New Haven is that where there could be a mindset of institutional abundance, there is often one of scarcity. And I'm interested in knowing how that affects um, entrepreneurs who are on the ground, in something like Collab, um, and also, models that you've seen that have been particularly successful within the city. And of course, I'm thinking of an existing beautiful partnership that Collab has with City Seed New Haven. I want to shout out Erin Lee of Heartfelt Catering, who last night made macaroni and cheese and let me share some, which was just that is a love language. Letting someone share your food is a love language. So Erin, if you're listening, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But that is a really beautiful partnership that has birthed the Food Business Accelerator. And so I'm curious if you, if you have seen or experienced that scarcity, and if you have thought about, how we could be leading with abundance. And Dawn, I would love for you to hop in after Caroline.
Yeah, a beautiful question. So a personal belief I have is that, like scarcity isn't real. Like the money exists, wealth absolutely exists. It's just about how it's distributed. And so I really believe that abundance is very, very possible. It's just about the decisions and choices that we make. As it relates to what we experience in New Haven, I mean, it's funny. I mean, our name is Collab, and so when we first started this, and this is a very, very core part of our values going into today, is that we knew we could never do this alone, and we didn't want to. And that continues to this day. I mean, partnerships like the one we have with City Seed, as you brought up, is such a good example of City Seed brought tangible experience supporting food entrepreneurs. They have their incredible kitchen space that they're now expanding. And then we brought the business fundamentals. We brought the community of entrepreneurs that we knew about. And it's been an incredible partnership to specifically support food entrepreneurs. It's actually just one little side story on that. It makes so much sense that food was our first industry-specific program, because it was responding to entrepreneurs here who said, hey, food is an accessible industry in the city. A lot of our entrepreneurs have been passing down recipes from generation to generation. Their families have been cooking. That is their lived experience that they bring to the table, and it's incredible. And so I'm very proud that was our first industry-specific program. And I mean, Dawn brought this up. I think it's actually really exciting to see, I think, what's happening in the New Haven entrepreneurial ecosystem space, whether it's Known, Concorp, Next Haven, the City of New Haven Small Business Resource Center, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, specifically Drew Alden and Arthur Thomas over there. The spirit of collaboration is very alive. There's a lot of interest in making sure that we're building a continuum of support to think about how an entrepreneur goes from start, a kernel of an idea, to being able to be investable. I think it's been really inspiring to see that build up, especially over the last couple of years, and a real spirit of collaboration among the entrepreneur support organizations. So while Collab is the front door, we're trying to, be knocking on every single door, sitting on every front porch in the city of New Haven. Known is really interested in entrepreneurs that are already making 50K of revenue, who want to support them in growing. Concorp has incredible space, as does Next Haven as well, that want to create a hub and a home and literally a roof for entrepreneurs, among other kind of different kinds of assistance and technical assistance. So I think that's incredibly promising. I'll pass it over to Dawn to chime in as well.
Yeah, I think, and so I'm just going to speak about nonprofits in general, because I'm probably more knowledgeable about that at this moment. But I think that it can feel scarce to people because we're thinking about funding in one way. we're thinking about the one grant that's out that everyone's competing for, or the one foundation, something like that, as opposed to, being innovative. And so I think that's one of the things I'm excited to do, here at Collab, is to be innovative and to think about other ways to generate revenue. And so when you start thinking like that, then the clouds part and the sun comes out, and you hear the music, because the world opens up to you, in terms of what might be possible when you start to think about reverse assumptions. So the assumption that it has to be a grant, or it has to be a government fund or something like that, and it doesn't. And so when you start to look at that differently, you can start to feel more abundant and start to feel like, oh yeah, there's enough out here for everybody, because I believe that there is.
So I also want to ask, since this is a show with arts in its title, about the role of the arts in this. Caroline, so many of Collab's ventures have been driven by the arts, or have the arts somewhere in their mission. I'm thinking, of course, of the Notorious PIC, which is Chris Randall and Tressa Joseph, but so many people that I'm not thinking about right now. And I think of the culinary arts within that. I'm curious, Dawn, how you're hoping to work with artist entrepreneurs who don't always realize that they are a whole company, right? Themselves, they are a whole thing. And I hear all the time from people, well, yeah, I file taxes as an artist, and I make my own jewelry, and I do this and this and that. And what they're describing is an entire company. They just happen to be one body doing all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, helping artist entrepreneurs. When in my coaching practice, a good number of clients were artists, performing artists. A lot of them are poets, things of that nature. And so it was really interesting when you start talking about their vision, casting their vision for their lives and their businesses, which they didn't want to really call it a business. Or think, as you're saying, or think of it as a business, and they were just staying true to the art. And so they think about, producing their art. That's where the focus is. But it was kind of fun to work with them to expand the thinking. And okay, there's the art side, but there's the business side of it. And if you want to grow it, these are the things you have to do. And so, as I mentioned earlier about potentially in the future of Collab having industry specific workshops and accelerators and things of that nature, it's exciting to think about working with artists in that way as well.
Caroline, is there anything you want to jump in?
Maybe just two things. One,
please.
We're really proud of the partnership with the City of New Haven Department of Cultural Affairs, Tiffany, Adrian, over there. They're incredible. And as a result, exactly what Dawn's saying, we were able to launch with them Entrepreneurship Decoded, which was a 5-week program specifically for artist entrepreneurs last spring. And we're probably going to do that again. I mean, I think we had over 40, 50 applicants. I think we were able to bring in everybody, if I recall, which is really exciting. Because just like food, I think New Haven is a city of builders, it's a city of creatives. It has been for forever. And artists need that level of investment to be able to do what they do. One mini theory I have is about the intersection of those two industries is of food and art. Specifically, examples when I think about Pistachio Cafe and the incredible folks over at Bloom, who are artists or who fuse the food and the cafe model with an artist model. I don't know if this is a theory that's already been proven out, but I'm very curious about more artists who are interested in the cafe, restaurant, food business model and think about that level of artistry and creativity in a kind of a restaurant, cafe, coffee shop kind of space. So mini theory that I think there's more of that intersection to come in the coming years.
Yeah, and I do just want to shout out Mohammed Hafez, who's the really brilliant, really Mohammed Hafez, and then also Luke and Mistina Hanscom, who during COVID would go into the space that now holds Pistachio Cafe and just build and paint and really make a cafe space where people are extremely welcome. And then also Alicia Crutchfield McLean over at Bloom. So we love both of you if you happen to be listening. Dawn, I would venture to guess that one does not take this job if they are a glass half empty kind of person. But I'm wondering how you're seeing the landscape right now, because I hear a lot of joy and positivity and excitement. And I also know that we have a world where the pandemic is still with us and it's moving and changing constantly. And there are a lot of ways in which our world is on fire. And so I'm wondering, as you step into this, how you're feeling about this position and about working with these creative, often very brilliant, wonderful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think I just have a really short answer for that one, which is, I am optimistic, and I actually do feel optimistic even in the midst of our current state, because if you look back over history, a lot of innovation has come out of times of crisis. It's true of the Great Depression. It's true of other periods of time, and so it's actually a really unique opportunity right now for people to create. And you see it happening because people who are getting laid off, they're starting businesses to fill gaps. People are seeing gaps now that they're home all the time. They're spending more time with their families and people. They're seeing opportunities. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I had this? Or wouldn't it be great if this existed? And they're creating it themselves. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity right now. And so I'm feeling like we're going to be okay ultimately.
So the last question I always like to ask people is, how are you taking care of yourself and taking care of your own hearts when you are working in service to so many people in the community? And either of you are welcome to jump right in.
Okay. So I'll just jump in. I feel that Caroline was signaling me with her eyes for me to start. so um, it's so funny because I think in the past and other careers, if someone asked me that question, I probably was just giving the answer on what I'm supposed to say because I wasn't always practicing self-care, but I didn't want to openly admit that. Now I think midway through the lioness journey, we realized, oh, we have to do self-care or we're not going to make it, And so I do have a few practices. One, Caroline knows I'm an avid R&B soul line dancer. I love line dancing. I do travel around to do it. It's a great hobby, and it's something that it's not only fun and just good for to keep moving and cardio and everything, but I do it with my mom and my sister, and so it's a family bonding. So it's great. So I do that. So I spend time on YouTube learning new dances and practicing. And also actually in the New Haven community, if you're unaware and you're interested, there are quite a few classes where you can do advanced beginner, intermediate level dancing. And then I do enjoy yoga. And so I actually just stopped work the other day, just 15-minute break to do a quick 15-minute yoga video. And I centered myself. It was amazing. 15 minutes can do a lot. And so, and then I taken during the pandemic to what I'm calling doodling. I'll hold up a little doodle. And so I've taken to learning how to draw. And so I do a little bit of drawing for peace and reading. So those are my activities.
Dawn's shown me that doodle before. Also, doodle. I mean, much respect to doodling, but that's like a piece of art. What you made, I think it's a little bit beyond a doodle. But
yeah, thank you for speaking for all of us.
Yeah, right. Yes, I think a lot of things, but one really concrete thing is going for walks with people that I really care about, especially because we can't. It's a little bit trickier to meet indoors these days, going for walks in the morning or in the early afternoons with really amazing friends and just people who I love in my community. Just yesterday morning, I went for a walk with Ming Thompson, who's amazing, and it was beautiful outside and bright and sunny. And And also, if people don't feel comfortable meeting up in person, the 20, 30-minute phone call of just like, hey, how are you, checking in. And even at a time when there's a lot of ways we can't spend time together, it's helped me feel really, really connected with people I care about. And yes, I can't recommend a walk or the 20, 30-minute phone call enough.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much. And I guess this is the actual last thing I always ask. So if folks are listening, and I hope they are, and they say, I'm an entrepreneur and I didn't know the Collab existed, how do I find this magical unicorn of an organization? Because I know that I want to get involved. How do they do that?
Well, visit collabnewhaven.org. That's our website address. And when you're there, you will see that we offer office hours. You can schedule a free 30-minute consultation with one of our program managers, and they'll talk with you about your idea or your venture. And, it's interesting, just 30 minutes with the person can really help you clarify some ideas, and beyond that, they'll help point you to the Collab program that makes the most sense for you, given the stage of your business that you're in. So if you're thinking about it, do it. Don't wait. Don't say, oh, once I do this or once I do that, then I'm going to go to Collab. No, go to Collab. You're probably sitting somewhere where you have access to your mobile phone or something right now. Go to collabnewhaven.org and just go ahead and sign up for an office hour session.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. It's beautiful. So I think I'm going to go take a walk after this. And I just appreciate you both so much. Have a beautiful weekend. And we will see each other in the virtual space or in person, especially the world is thawing really too quickly, but that's another episode of this show. So I will talk to you later. Thank you both so much. And thank you to Harry Droz, the guy behind the controls.
Thank you, Lucy.
Scooby-Dooby-Dooby, Scooby-Dooby, I do the Scooby.